Can the fearful avoidant attachment style be friends with their ex? Well, I'm guessing that if you are a fearful avoidant, wondering, listening to this right now, hopefully I can give you some key insights into this. Or if you are the loved one of a fearful avoidant who is wondering, hey, my fearful avoidant partner is friends with their ex. What should I think or feel about it? We're going to cover four really important topics in this video that sort of dig into the nuances of the fearful avoidant relationship with their ex. So, first and foremost, fearful avoidants have a really interesting dynamic where they can be very hot or very cold. Okay. And what I mean by this is that fearful avoidant attachment styles, if they're just dating somebody for a few weeks, they tend to, and it doesn't work, they tend to be quite cold to that person. So they tend to be able to sort of shut the connection down. They don't really think about it again. If it doesn't work out, they can really kind of, wipe their hands clean, not talk to the person, move on. There is a really interesting barrier, though, where if a fearful avoidant really lets somebody in, because for a fearful avoidant, it's actually really difficult for them to let somebody in to sort of the other side of like their vulnerability. So, a fearful avoidant attachment self, they really let somebody in, meaning if they go through a hard time and somebody's really there for them and they feel really seen or heard or loved, or if they are in an experience with somebody where they open up about a lot of things and they really feel like deeply connected to a person. If this person sort of crosses this barrier, because fearful avoidants can do this thing where they seem like they're vulnerable, but they're not really being vulnerable about the things they truly feel the most vulnerable about. They're just being kind of vulnerable to a certain degree. But the real vulnerable things, if they let you into that space, it's almost like for a fearful avoidant, a certain threshold gets crossed. And through that specific threshold, all of a sudden, what we'll see is that the fearful avoidant builds a really, really deep bond. And they almost feel, and I've heard this from so many fearful avoidants over the years, like, okay, now that this person's kind of have a place, they kind of have a place in my heart, they're always going to have a place in my heart. And so now we can get into this really interesting circumstance, which brings me to point number two, where fearful avoidants actually, if they date somebody for a long time and they really let somebody in, they may actually have difficulty not having some kind of friendly relationship with their ex. And there's a difference here between friends and friendly. I think that if we have somebody who's friends, maybe there's a lot more consistent communication. I find that a fearful avoidant, if they had a positive relationship with somebody who they really did let pass that wall or that sort of barrier or threshold and really let into their lives, it's more like they just want to know that that person is somebody that they can still be on good terms with. I find a lot of fearful avoidant attachment styles, unless they're extremely hurt by somebody in a really negative way, um, they tend to want to feel like the person isn't just dead to them because they broke up. I mean, a lot of fearful avoidants find that to be very harsh, find that to be sort of unnecessary. And I want to be really clear here in saying that just because a fearful avoidant feels that way, it doesn't mean that other attachment styles don't feel completely the opposite. And it's a very individual process here about whether or not people can be friends with their ex. Are there still feelings involved? How long has it been? What does friends mean? What are the boundaries around friends? I mean, there's all these burning questions around it. And I think that's what we're really going to get into in the next couple parts here. But I just want to say, just because a fearful avoidant doesn't want that, it doesn't make it healthy or unhealthy, right? Everybody's allowed to have their individual relationship to what it means to have an ex. Some people actually need to know that they're not going to speak to this person again because that helps them actually feel like they can heal and focus on themselves and move on. And move on. And there's not a right or wrong answer to this. There's different answers to this depending on your attachment style. So these are the first two sort of parts, right? The difference between being, deeply connected friends versus friendly, and then this sort of barrier or threshold where it makes it difficult for the FA to not feel like they have some kind of relationship to their ex. The third part here really becomes like what the definition of friendship is, right? So if we're digging into this in a lot deeper nuances, I really want to talk about for the part three here, the idea of boundaries. If somebody is a fearful avoidant, and if you have, this you've been dating somebody for 5 years and now all of a sudden you're out of a relationship and it's been 2 months, and within the 2-month period you're starting to talk to somebody all the time again, and yet you're not going to work through and try to have the relationship again. I mean, you're just in a really difficult gray area. And I think we need to have boundaries around the time that we allow to sort of come through before we try to rebuild some sort of relationship with an ex. And I think that sometimes that's something that fearful avoidance do wrong in their healing journey, right? I don't want to say do wrong, but do in a way that can make it more challenging. And again, I'm acutely aware that everybody's experience is very unique and individual. If you're dating somebody for a shorter time, you might be able to be friends after. If you're dating somebody for a long time, but you kind of mourn the relationship while you're in it, it's going to be a different outcome. But I have seen enough times that fearful avoidants have had deep feelings. There's a sudden breakup, maybe because somebody's moving or distance or just a lot of arguing and fighting. And then there still isn't proper closure and things are unresolved. And then they're kind of in this friendship gray area with somebody for a long time, and it can just make the relationship much more difficult. So it is a really important thing to be mindful of if you're in that space right now. And that brings me to the last point. Actually, before I tell you the last point, so I just wanted to stop by here and let you know a really exciting announcement, and is that we are doing $1,000 off of our lifetime memberships to the Personal Development School for Life. So I will tell you what's actually included in there. Number one, you get access to all of our different 60 plus courses. Everything about every single attachment style, how to reprogram, how to heal. We have courses in there about the 6 stages of relationships and how to navigate each stage. We have courses in there about how to get back together or heal relationships between different attachment styles and all of the steps for reconnecting. And we have all sorts of other courses on boundaries, conflict communication, setting and achieving goals at the subconscious level, seeing how attachment styles even show up in your workplace and how to navigate some of those different dynamics and heal those aspects of your attachment style. There's so many courses in there, but number 2 feature that we have, daily social support groups. So these are small groups that are all included in the lifetime membership, and we do daily events, sometimes even twice a day, where there will be, 10 people or so led by a trained counselor, coach, or facilitator. And you can actually join in there and practice some of the different tools with other members. It's a great place to build relationships, connect with like-minded people, and to really fast track your learning and have that extra support all the time. And number 3, we have daily webinars Monday through Saturday. I do 3 of those webinars every single week. That's the time to come in, ask me your questions. You can come in on camera and we can chat. You can come in off camera and just post them in the chat, whatever you're most comfortable doing. And we have other amazing counselors, coaches, facilitators who also lead other webinars. And again, those are slightly larger groups of people, but it's a great opportunity to connect with like-minded learners who also care about the same things: emotional connection, relationships, and personal growth. So I hope you check it out. We also have all these different discussion forums in there. We have a Facebook group, so you can connect with each other there as well. And there's a tremendous amount of community support in an ongoing way at PDS. So I would love to see you on the other side. I hope you join me. And now we'll go back to the video. And then the fourth part here is that it's not just about time boundaries. It's about relationship boundaries. It's about when we do decide to be friends with an ex, what does that look like? And I think if you're dating somebody new, especially, it's really important. Like if you're friends with somebody and you chat once a month, or you send a text here and there, or you kind of have this like intermittent conversation, that can be healthy and that can be something that is okay, as long as you're also transparent with your current partner about it, you're open about it, you maybe even they meet if you spend time with them, like you sort of allow it to be like treated the way that any other friendship would be treated. That's when it can be really healthy. The place where it gets, not so great is if you're speaking to somebody every night on the phone, or if you're seeing them once a week. I mean, that's where we have to really get clear, like, what is our relationship to it? Is it truly just about friendship, or are we truly over them? And sometimes people have a really long-standing friendship before, and that can also make it tricky. Like if you were friends before with somebody for 5 years and then you decided to date and then it didn't work out, like, I know that it can be, it's not so cut and dry. It's not so simple all the time. But the more we can really dig into some of these things and make sure that we are addressing them from a really, really healthy perspective, above board, transparent, know what our boundaries need to be to know that we're not going to get feelings again. If you are the fearful avoidant, know what your boundaries need to be respectful to your current partner if you are a fearful avoidant, and then be having that transparency, that conversation, that connection. And I would advise that, you're not seeing somebody all the time as a general rule, but if you're seeing somebody once a month or catching up, or if you have mutual friends or things like that, hanging out in groups, all those sorts of things tend to be okay, as long as that is something that you're also having a conversation with your partner about. The boundaries are clear from both ends. And that tends to be when relationships can not just be friendly and connected, but actually successful for the long run. Because the last thing you want is to be friends with your ex and then have a friendship breakup, not so long after. So I hope this video gave you some important things to think about when it comes to being friends with an ex as a fearful avoidant attachment style. If you have more questions about this, please let me know in the comments below. I can definitely make more videos about it. If you are going through a breakup, you need that extra support, check out that course for free for 7 days down below. Thank you so much for watching, for stopping by. I hope you subscribe. I hope you join the community. I would love to have you here. And I can't wait to see you in future videos.